The whisper of a forgotten city. They say history is not what is written in books. History is what remains buried beneath the earth, hidden in the silence of forgotten stones, lingering like a faint whisper carried by the wind. There was once a city, no, not just a city, but a living dream, a place where life pulsed with such brilliance that it seemed impossible for it to vanish. Yet today, not even its name survives. On quiet nights, when the moonlight stretches like silver across empty fields, the earth seems to breathe. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it, soft, broken voices murmuring secrets too old to understand. Beneath layers of soil and time, stones still wait to tell their story. But who is left to listen? The people are gone. The roads are gone. All that remains is a feeling, a haunting echo that refuses to fade. The story begins in a valley cradled by mountains, wrapped in deep green forests. Once, sunlight fell there like golden silk, and the rivers ran clear, reflecting the sky as if it were a mirror. There were temples carved so delicately they seemed to be born from the mountain itself, and towering structures that touched the clouds, as if the people had learned to speak the language of the heavens. But now there is only silence, a silence so heavy it feels alive. The place is called the Lost City, though no one truly knows if it was lost or erased. Some say it was a gift from the gods, a paradise where mortals walked alongside the divine. Others believe it was the final masterpiece of an ancient civilization, a people so advanced they frightened the world itself. Who were they? What faces did they have? What dreams lived in their hearts? No one can say. All that remains are fragments of legend. They say their eyes held a strange light, as though they had seen something beyond human comprehension. They created music that could make even stone weep. Their halls shimmered with colours we can no longer imagine. They didn't simply live, they turned their dreams into reality. And then it ended. Something happened, something no one dares to name. The streets where laughter once danced now lie empty. Bridges that spanned mighty rivers are shattered, half swallowed by water. The faces etched into temple walls have faded, as if someone deliberately tried to erase them. Some say the city destroyed itself. It reached too far, too high, and touched something it was never meant to touch. It broke the laws of the earth, of the sky, of time itself. Others whisper that it was not the city's choice, that something else came, something greater, and wiped it away before its secrets could spread. They say on the final night the sky turned red. The air was thick with a strange sweetness, like flowers burning. The rivers roared with rage, the mountains groaned like a living creature in pain. And then darkness. When the sun rose again, there was nothing. No voices, no footsteps, no life, just ruins, quiet and hollow. Even now, the soil there feels different. Grass grows in strange patterns. The air carries a soft, intoxicating scent that makes you forget where you are. At night, anyone who dares to stay hears faint whispers, as if someone is speaking just behind them. Some who visit never return. Those who do come back are never quite the same. So, is the city truly gone, or has it simply hidden itself, waiting for the right time to return? Are its people still watching from somewhere just beyond our sight? This is only the beginning, a doorway into a world of shadows and unanswered questions, a journey where every step will draw you closer to a truth that may not want to be found. Perhaps you think this is only a myth, perhaps you believe it is just a story, but listen carefully. Doesn't the wind sound different now, as if it is calling your name? The silent footsteps of time. Imagine walking through a place that feels alive, yet completely empty. The air is still but heavy with memories. Beneath your feet, the ground feels softer, as if it remembers the weight of thousands of footsteps that once walked these paths. You can almost sense them, the faint sound of sandals brushing against stone, the echo of laughter that once filled these silent streets. In the heart of what was once the city, there is a plaza, or at least it looks like one. A wide, open space, paved with stones, so perfectly fitted together that no blade of grass dares grow between them. At the centre, there is something strange, what remains of a fountain. It is dry now, but the carvings are still there, curling in spirals that twist and turn, as if trying to tell a story in a language long forgotten. No one knows what flowed through that fountain. Was it water, or something else? Travellers say that on certain nights, when the moon is high, they have seen it glow faintly, not with water, but with light, a pale, shimmering glow that disappears the moment you blink. Surrounding the plaza are the remains of buildings, their walls standing like silent guardians. Some still have pieces of artwork clinging to their surfaces, strange symbols, faces of creatures that are not quite human, eyes that seem to follow you wherever you go. The city was not just a place to live, it was a living memory, carved into every stone. But who carved them? And why do those faces feel so alive? The deeper you walk into the ruins, the more you feel it. A presence. Not a person, but something. Watching. Not with anger, not even with kindness. Just a cold, eternal gaze, like someone looking at you through time itself. There are rumours, whispers passed down from one storyteller to another. They say this city was not just advanced, it was beyond understanding. The people here we can. Not bound by the same limits as the rest of humanity. They knew secrets of the earth that we have lost. They could move massive stones as if they were weightless. They could grow food that never spoiled, heal wounds with a single touch, and speak to the stars. But knowledge can be dangerous. The elders say the people of this city became too powerful, too curious. They reached for something they were not meant to have. They opened a door that should have remained closed. Some say they were searching for immortality. Some say they were trying to summon the gods themselves. And maybe they succeeded. But the gods, or whatever answered, did not give them what they wanted. Instead, they erased them, wiped them from history, as if they had never existed. You can almost imagine that night. The screams echoing through the streets, the ground shaking as the sky turned dark, flames rising higher than the tallest towers, and then silence. Complete silence. Now all that remains are these hollow shells, broken walls, empty halls, and the strange feeling that the people are still here, just hidden, waiting. Sometimes travellers who come here late at night say they've heard music, soft, almost too faint to notice, a single instrument playing a melody that is both beautiful and unbearably sad. It lasts only a moment, then it's gone. Others say they've seen figures moving in the shadows, shapes that vanish the moment you look at them. Some have even claimed to see a woman standing at the fountain, her face covered, her hands raised as if offering something, but when they step closer, she's gone. Is it just the mind playing tricks? Or is the city still alive in some way? And here's the most unsettling part. No one knows how old these ruins are. There are no dates, no markers, no graves, nothing. It's as if time refuses to touch this place. The stones are smooth, almost polished, as though they were placed here only yesterday. But the jungle around it is ancient. Trees have grown so tall that their roots twist around the ruins, almost protecting them like a hand hiding a secret. If you stay long enough, you start to feel strange, like the air itself is heavier, like time slows down, and in that moment you realize something. This city doesn't feel dead, it feels like it's dreaming, the dream that breathes. There is a strange thing about this city. It doesn't feel abandoned, it feels paused, as if it is holding its breath, waiting for something or someone to wake it again. Walk deeper into its heart and you will find narrow pathways, paved with stones smoother than glass. They twist and curve in patterns that feel deliberate, like they were meant to lead you somewhere. But to where? Each turn feels familiar, even though you've never been here before, and then you reach the Great Hall, or what remains of it. Imagine a vast chamber with walls so high they seem to touch the sky. Even in ruins it feels overwhelming, as if it was built not for humans, but for something greater. Columns carved from a single piece of stone rise like frozen trees. On each one, strange markings spiral upward, symbols no one can read, yet they stir something deep in your mind, like an echo of a memory you've forgotten. At the centre of the hall is a single stone platform. It is perfectly round, smooth as still water. There are no cracks, no signs of age, and in the middle of it, a single indentation, as if something once rested there, something small, something powerful. No one knows what it was. Some say it was a crystal that glowed with its own light, guiding the people of the city. Others whisper it was a relic from the sky, something that came from beyond this world. And a few believe it was not an object at all, but a living being, a heart that kept the city alive. But whatever it was, it's gone, and the moment it vanished, the city fell silent. Look closer at the walls, and you'll see faded images, figures with elongated faces, wearing flowing garments that shimmered like water. They are shown holding hands with beings that are not human. Some have wings, others are surrounded by rings of light, some look like shadows more than flesh. Are these gods, spirits, or a thing else entirely? There is one image that appears again and again. A woman standing at the edge of a great circle, her arms outstretched. Around her, the city is burning. Above her, the sky is cracking open, and in her hands, a shape that glows like the sun. Who was she? A queen, a priestess, or the one who doomed them all? The legends say the city was not destroyed by war, nor by nature. It was destroyed by choice. Someone inside made a decision, one that could not be undone. Some believe they tried to ascend, to leave the human world behind and become something more. Maybe they succeeded. Maybe they left this world entirely, taking their secrets with them. But if that is true, then what are these whispers we still hear? Even now, as you stand in the great hall, the silence is not truly silent. There is a soft hum in the air, so faint you almost think you imagined it. A vibration beneath your feet, like the city itself has a heartbeat. Some nights, explorers claim to have felt the ground tremble, not like an earthquake, but like a slow, steady breath, as if the city was sleeping, dreaming, waiting. And what if it wakes? What if this is not the end of the story, but only a pause? What if the people are not gone, but hidden, just beyond the veil of time? There's one more thing, something that makes this place different from any other ruin in the world. It doesn't let you leave easily. Those who stay too long in the heart of the city say they begin to forget, not just where they are, but who they are. Names slip away, memories blur. The longer you stay, the more the city feels like home, and the outside world feels like a dream. It is said that some explorers simply stopped trying to leave. They wandered into the shadows between the halls and never returned. Were they lost, or did they choose to stay? And if you listened carefully enough, if you stood perfectly still, in that hall with your eyes closed, you might hear it too. A single word, soft, gentle, almost like a song. Come back. The story is slowly pulling us deeper, showing that this city might still be alive, in a way that is both beautiful and terrifying. Shadows that remember. There is something unsettling about the way shadows move in this city. They do not follow the sun the way they should. They stretch and twist, as if they have their own rhythm, their own memory. Even in the brightest light, there are places here that remain dark. And sometimes, if you are not careful, you might catch a glimpse of something moving in that darkness. Not clearly, just the faint outline of a figure standing where no one should be, watching, waiting. No one knows who or what they are. Perhaps they are the remnants of the people who once lived here, not quite alive, but not truly gone, or maybe they are something else entirely, guardians, keepers of secrets too dangerous to be revealed. The locals, those who live miles away but still speak of this place in hushed voices, have a saying, "The city remembers." They believe the city is alive, that every wall, every stone, every tree that has wrapped itself around the ruins holds the memories of what happened here. And sometimes, when the air is still, those memories slip through, a sound, a flicker of movement, a feeling that you are being followed. There is a story told by one of the few explorers who returned. He said that while walking through a narrow corridor of collapsed walls, he felt a sudden warmth on his hand, as if someone had gently taken it. He turned, but there was no one there, and yet the sensation lingered, soft, fragile, like the touch of a child. He left the city the next day and never came back. He wouldn't speak of what he saw beyond that moment. He only said one thing: they are still here. If you wander beyond the Great Hall, you'll find stairways leading down. They are cracked and crumbling, but they still hold. Descend far enough, and you enter the Undercity. It is a maze of tunnels and chambers carved directly into the rock. Here, the air is different. Cooler, thas, icker. The walls are lined with strange carvings that do not appear anywhere else above ground. Spirals, endless spirals, twisting inward like they are pulling your mind with them. At the deepest point of the Undercity, there is a door. It is massive, made of a single slab of black stone. No one knows how it was placed there or what lies behind it. There are no handles, no hinges, no visible way to open it, but if you press your ear against it, you will hear something faint, a heartbeat, slow, steady. Some believe it is the heart of the city, others believe it is something waiting to be released. And here is the strangest thing of all. No matter how many explorers come to this place, no matter how much they try to map it, the Undercity is never the same twice. Passages change, doors vanish, chambers that were there one day are gone the next. It is as if the city itself is alive, shifting, rearranging, choosing what it wants you to see. The more time you spend here, the more you realize the city is not just a ruin, it is not just stone and history, it is something far beyond that. Some nights, when the sky above is filled with stars, the ruins seem to glow faintly, like they are reflecting a light you cannot see. And if you listen, really listen, you might hear music, faint, distant, echoing through the stones, a song that does not belong to this world. It is said that the people of this city never truly died. They crossed into something else, something we cannot understand, and what remains here is only the shadow of what they left behind. But shadows can still move, and they do. The city is becoming more alive with every step, its shadows, its Undercity, its heartbeat behind the sealed door. The door beneath the earth, beneath the weight of the ruins, beyond the twisting tunnels of the Undercity, lies a silence so pure it almost feels sacred. It is not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of something waiting, something patient. That black stone door stands there, unmoving, as if it has been watching for countless ages. It is smooth, cold, and impossibly heavy. No tool can scratch it. No sound echoes against it. It simply absorbs everything like a void. Many have tried to open it. Some came with science, scanning it, measuring it, trying to understand its composition. Others came with rituals, believing it was sealed by ancient magic. All failed. But those who have touched it speak of the same thing. A pulse, not strong but unmistakable, like the slow rhythm of a sleeping creature. The moment your skin brushes against that stone, you feel it. A faint vibration that travels up your arm, into your chest, and lingers in your heartbeat. It does not stop. Even after you step away, you feel it for hours, sometimes days, as if a piece of the city has followed you home. And then there are the whispers. At first, you think it is the wind in the tunnels, but the more you listen, the more you realize it is not random. It is words, faint, broken, in a language you cannot understand, but one that feels strangely familiar. The whispers do not beg, they do not command, they simply ask. Ask for what? No one knows. Above the door, carved into the stone in delicate lines, is an image. A circle surrounded by shapes that look like stars. In the center of the circle is a figure, arms outstretched, surrounded by light. Around it are others, bowing, kneeling, their faces hidden. And below them all, at the very bottom, a single word, not in any language we know, but when you see it, you understand it without meaning to. It says, return. What is meant to return? The people, the city, or something else entirely? Some believe this door was not built to keep something in, it was built to keep something out. The locals say the door is alive, that it is not stone at all, but a skin, and that one day it will open on its own, and when it does, the city will wake. There are stories of nights when the door glows faintly, not bright, but a soft shimmer like moonlight trapped beneath the surface. Those who have seen it say the glow pulses with the same rhythm as a heartbeat, and for just a moment they heard something else, a sound like a distant choir, voices layered on top of one another, singing in perfect harmony. But the song was not comforting, it was heavy, like the weight of eternity pressing against your soul. Beyond the door, what could be waiting? Some say it is a treasure, the last gift of the city. Knowledge beyond imagining, power that could change the world. Others whisper of a warning, a curse sealed away so it could never touch humanity again. And a few, a very few, believe it is not waiting to be opened by us at all. It is waiting for them. The people who built this city, the ones who vanished. Because what if they are not gone? What if they are simply on the other side of that door, in a place that exists beyond time, waiting for the moment they can return? Every now and then, someone goes missing in the Undercity. They wander too far, too deep, and they do not come back. Their companions hear a faint echo, like footsteps just ahead, and then nothing. No scream, no trace. It is said the city chooses. It decides who is allowed to leave and who must stay, and the ones who stay are never seen again. The mystery deepens, the door, the heartbeat, the strange feeling that this place is more than stone. The ones who stayed, not everyone who enters the city leaves. There are those who come seeking answers, who wander too deeply into its silent halls and twisting corridors. At first, they are just explorers, curious, cautious, holding tightly to their maps and lanterns, but the longer they stay, the more the city changes them. It begins subtly, a feeling of familiarity, as if you've walked these streets before, though you know you haven't. A soft hum in the air that you can't place, the shadows that seem to move when you're not looking. You tell yourself it's just your imagination. But then, the dreams start. Those who sleep within the city say they dream of light, blinding, endless light that swallows everything. In the dream, they are standing at the fountain in the plaza. The ruins are whole again. Towering buildings gleam with gold and crystal. The streets are alive with people draped in flowing robes, their faces glowing with a serene calm. The air is filled with music that makes your heart ache, and in the centre of it all, a figure stands with their back turned, waiting. When you try to call out, your voice doesn't work. When you step closer, the figure slowly begins to turn, but before you can see their face, you wake up. And yet, the dream lingers. The scent of flowers you've never known before, the faint echo of that music, as if it followed you out of sleep. The longer you remain, the harder it becomes to tell which is the dream and which is real. The ruins don't seem broken anymore. The halls look cleaner, the walls brighter, and sometimes, for just a split second, you see someone at the edge of your vision, a person, whole and alive, walking past as if they belong here. But when you look directly, there's nothing. Those who stay too long begin to forget why they came. They forget the world outside, their memories blur, their sense of time fades. Days become as hours become moments, until one day they stop trying to leave, and when the others come looking, they find no trace, no footprints, no belongings, no sign they were ever there at all. Locals say the city keeps them. It absorbs them quietly, gently, not like a predator, but like a dream that refuses to let you wake. But there are rare stories of those who return after being lost. They come back silent, their eyes different, distant, like they are seeing something no one else can see. They don't speak of what happened, they don't respond when asked, they simply sit in quiet places, staring into nothing, humming a soft tune that no one recognizes. One man, an archaeologist who vanished for 3 days, came back whispering a single sentence over and over again, in a voice that wasn't entirely his own. "It is not gone. It is waiting." And then he stopped speaking forever. Some believe the city shows them something, a glimpse of what it truly is, something too beautiful or too terrible for the mind to hold. Because here is the strange truth about this place. It does not feel like a ruin. It feels like a memory that wants to be remembered, and sometimes it chooses someone to remember for it. Now the city feels more like a living dream than a dead place, pulling people in, showing them visions. When the city wakes, for some, the city never stays in ruins. There are rare moments, fleeting, fragile, when the veil seems to lift. When the cracked walls and broken pillars fade like mist, and for a heartbeat the city stands whole again. It begins with the light. Soft at first, a shimmer at the edge of your vision, then brighter, filling every corner, spilling across the streets like liquid gold. The air grows warmer. The silence breaks. You hear footsteps, laughter, voices speaking in a language you don't know but somehow understand. And then you see them, figures moving gracefully along the pathways, men and women in garments that flow like water, shimmering with colours you've never seen before. They walk with purpose, calm and serene, their faces peaceful yet unreadable. Their eyes hold a glow that is not of this world, something ancient, something knowing. The plaza is no longer empty. The fountain flows again, not with water, but with light, a pure, radiant glow that reflects off the polished stones. Children run past you, laughing. Musicians play instruments unlike anything you've ever known, their notes weaving through the air like threads of silk. It feels perfect. Too perfect. The buildings rise around you, towering yet delicate, built of stone and crystal, so finely worked they seem weightless. Bridges span across the sky, connecting one great hall to another. Above, the heavens shimmer with strange constellations, patterns of stars that don't belong to any known sky. And for a moment you believe it. You believe you are there, that this is not a ruin at all, but a living city, vibrant and whole, untouched by time. But then you blink, and it's gone. The laughter fades, the warmth disappears, the light drains away, leaving only the cold, empty stones of the ruin. You are standing alone again, the silence pressing in on you like a weight. Those who have seen I describe the same feeling afterward, a hollow ache, like losing something precious you never truly had, a longing you can't explain. It's as if the city is showing you what it once was, not to frighten you, but to remind you. But why? Some believe the city is reaching out, trying to be remembered, trying to awaken what is left of its soul through those who visit. Others say it's not the past they are seeing, but the future, a glimpse of what will return when the time is right. And a few whisper the most unsettling thought of all, that what you see is not an illusion, that for those few seconds, the city truly wakes. It doesn't just show you, it becomes real. And if you stay long enough in that moment, you might not come back, because there are stories of people who vanished exactly like that. Witnesses say they saw their companions frozen in awe, staring into nothing. Then, without a word, they stepped forward, as if following someone unseen. They walked deeper into the city, and simply disappeared. No sound, no struggle, just gone. Some say the city took them, chose them, pulled them fully into its memory, where they still walk those perfect streets, no longer bound by time. Others believe they chose it, because once you've seen the city alive, how could you ever go back to the ordinary world? Now the city is no longer just ruins, it's a living vision, a place between worlds. The woman by the fountain. Among all the stories the city tells, there is one that returns like a shadow, the story of the woman who waits by the fountain. Travellers have seen her, though never clearly. She appears when the moon is high, when the air grows unnaturally still, always in the same place, the centre of the plaza, where the dry fountain stands silent. She is draped in pale flowing robes that ripple even when there is no wind. Her face is hidden beneath a veil so thin it almost glows. In her hands she holds something small, something that seems to shimmer with its own faint light. She never speaks, she never moves, she only waits. And if you step too close, she vanishes. No one knows who she is. Some call her the last queen of the city, the one who ruled in its final days. Others say she was a priestess, a keeper of secrets, who bore the weight of a choice that changed everything. But the most haunting story is the oldest one, the one the locals still whisper when they speak of this place. They say she was not just a woman, she was the heart of the city. She was the one who spoke to the stars, who heard the voices that came from beyond the sky. She was the one who discovered the door beneath the earth and learned what lay behind it, and she was the one who opened it. What she saw, no one knows, but from that moment the city began to change. The sky above grew restless, the rivers turned strange colours, the people grew quieter, their faces pale and distant, as though they were hearing things no one else could hear. And then, on the last night, she walked alone to the fountain. The legends say she stood there, holding the glowing relic that had once kept the city alive. And in that moment, she had a choice, to save her people, or to let them go. She chose the second. No one knows why. Some say it was mercy, others say it was betrayal. But after that night, the sea aired. Itty was silent, and now she is all that remains, a shadow, a memory, standing by the fountain, waiting for something, or someone. Those who have seen her say there is no fear in her presence, only sorrow, a sorrow so deep it feels endless. And if you listen closely, if you stand still enough, you will hear a faint sound near her, a single drop of water falling into the dry fountain. No one knows where it comes from. Some believe it is her way of calling, reaching out across time, asking for help, asking for forgiveness, or simply asking to be remembered. And there is one more thing. A few who have seen her say she turned her head slightly, just enough for them to glimpse part of her face. And what they saw was not human at all. It was something more. The mystery of the woman deepens. Was she the saviour of the city, or the one who doomed it? The last night, the night the city fell, was not like any other. It began with a stillness, a strange, unnatural calm that settled over the streets like a heavy blanket. The air grew warm, too warm, as though the sun had forgotten to set. The sky, they say, turned a deep, burning red, not the soft red of a sunset, but a colour so intense it felt alive, pulsing like the inside of a flame. The people sensed it first. They stopped in the plazas, in the markets, in the great halls. They looked upward, their faces pale, their eyes wide with something beyond fear, recognition. As if they knew this was not unexpected, as if they had always known it would come. The rivers began to rise, slow at first, then faster, carrying with them the strange glow that had seeped into the water for weeks. The ground trembled, not violently, but like a deep, low heartbeat that shook the soul more than the body. And in the plaza, at the fountain, she stood. The woman. She was calm, almost too calm, holding the glowing relic in her hands. Around her, the city was unravelling. The towers that had touched the clouds cracked and fell like sand. The bridges of crystal shattered into fragments of light, and the people, some screamed, some prayed, but most simply stood still, waiting. Because they understood, whatever they had awakened could not be undone. There are whispers that the door beneath the earth opened that night, slowly, silently, and something stepped through. No one agrees on what it was. Some say it was light, pure, and blinding, washing over everything in an instant. Others speak of shadows, shapes without form that moved through the streets like smoke, and a few say it was not something that came into the city, but something that came out. Whatever it was, it changed everything. The music stopped, the voices fell silent, the air grew thick, heavy, impossible to breathe, and then time broke. The locals believe the city did not simply fall. It was erased, pulled out of the world as if it had never been, not destroyed, not buried, but taken. Some say the woman made the choice. She raised the relic above her head, spoke words no one understood, and in that moment she severed the city from the world. Why, no one knows. To save it, to protect the rest of the world from what it had become, or simply because there was no other way. The last thing anyone remembers is the sound, a soft ringing tone like the chime of crystal. It echoed through every street, every chamber, every mind, and then nothing. When the sun rose the next day, there were no bodies, no voices, no life, only ruins, and the fountain, dry and silent. From that night onward, the city became what it is now, a hollow shadow, caught between what was and what is. But what if it's not truly gone? The survivors of silence. Not everyone vanished that night. There are faint traces, stories scattered like dust across distant lands, of a few who escaped the city before it was taken. They are spoken of as wanderers, strangers who appeared without warning, carrying an emptiness in their eyes that no one could understand. They never spoke of where they came from, but their presence left ripples. In mountain villages far from the city, there are carvings on old stones, symbols that match those found in the ruins. In deserts, beyond the reach of maps, there are fragments of songs sung in a language no one recognizes, yet somehow feels familiar. And in the oldest temples of distant civilizations, there are statues of figures draped in flowing robes, their hands raised as if holding something unseen. Who placed them there? Some believe the survivors did, that they tried to preserve pieces of what they had lost. But there is another version of the tale, a darker one. It says the survivors were not the same as they had been, that whatever happened that night changed them forever. They were quiet, too quiet. They moved with a grace that felt unnatural. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and they carried with them knowledge, strange, forbidden knowledge that gave rise to myths in other lands. Some called them prophets, others called them cursed, and wherever they went, they left behind the same warning, whispered in a trembling voice, almost like a prayer. It will return. What it was, no one could explain. There are tales of one such figure, a woman who appeared in a coastal village years after the fall. She was silent for weeks, sitting by the shore as the waves touched her feet. Then one night, under the full moon, she spoke to the villagers in a voice like music. We reached too far. We listened to the voice beyond the stars. We thought it was a gift. We were wrong. And then, without another word, she walked into the sea and never came back. Another tells of a man who lived in the mountains, carving endless spirals into the walls of a cave. He never aged, he never slept, and before he vanished into the forest one final time, he left a single message scratched into the stone. The city dreams. When it wakes, so will we. These scattered fragments became myths, woven into the lore of faraway peoples, stories of a great city that vanished in a single night, of a door that should never be opened, of a woman with a face of light waiting by a fountain that no longer flows. But there is something more unsettling in these stories. They say the survivors, if that's what they truly were, did not die. They simply faded, as if they were not meant to remain in this world for long, and some believe they are still out there, hiding, waiting, carrying the last pieces of the city's soul. The survivors are as mysterious as the city itself, haunted figures who spread whispers of what was lost. The voice beyond the stars. Long before the city fell, there were signs, subtle, almost invisible at first, like a soft vibration in the air. The people noticed it, but they didn't fear it. They believed it was a gift. They were dreamers, seekers of truths beyond the earth. They studied the stars, not just to chart their paths, but to listen. And one day, the stars answered. It didn't come as a sound, not exactly. It was more like a feeling, a thought that slipped into their minds in perfect clarity. It spoke without words, but they understood it completely. A voice, calm and patient, older than time itself. It promised them knowledge. It promised them a way to transcend the limits of flesh and stone, a way to step beyond the boundaries of their world and touch eternity. And the people listened. They built great halls, not as temples to gods, but as instruments, resonant chambers designed to amplify the voice. They carved symbols into the stones, shapes that mirrored constellations unseen by human eyes. At night, they gathered in silence, letting the whispers from beyond fill their hearts. The more they listened, the more they changed. Their technology grew unlike anything the world had seen. They learned to shape metal as easily as clay, to heal wounds that should have killed, to bend light, to command energy, to make the impossible real. But with every gift came a shadow. The voice began to ask for things. It told them to dig deeper beneath the earth, to open chambers that had been sealed long before their time, to build the door in the Undercity, the one that still hums with a heartbeat. And they obeyed, because by then they no longer questioned it. It spoke of a great merging, a union that would erase the line between the mortal and the divine. It told them that beyond the veil of the stars lay a realm where pain and death were illusions, where thought itself became reality. They believed they were chosen, but they didn't see the truth, not yet, until the day the voice asked for one final act, to open the last gate. The woman by the fountain was the first to understand what they had done. She had been the voice of the people, the one closest to the stars, the one who could hear the whispers more clearly than anyone else. And she realized too late that the voice was not a gift, it was a calling, not a call to ascend, a call to invite something through. What came was not light, it was hunger. An endless, formless hunger that swept through the city like a tide, consuming not just stone and flesh, but memory itself. and that was the last night. Now the city's fall is tied to something greater, a voice from beyond the stars, promising knowledge but delivering doom. When the gate opened, the final gate was not made of wood or stone. It was not even visible to the eye. It was a doorway of thought, a threshold carved into the fabric of reality itself, hidden deep beneath the earth, where the tunnels of the Undercity coiled like the veins of a sleeping giant. For years the people prepared for that moment. They built the chamber with perfect precision, shaping it to echo the patterns of the stars. And on the last night they gathered. Every torch was extinguished. The city fell silent as the chosen stepped into the great hall beneath the earth. There were no chants, no songs, only a deep humming sound, rising not from their voices, but from the stones themselves, as if the city was singing. At the centre of the chamber was the woman. She stood before the black stone door, holding the relic, a fragment of something older than the world. In her hands it pulsed with a faint light, like a living heart. The voice spoke again, soft, gentle. It promised them release. It promised to lift them from the weight of time. It promised that beyond the gate was a place where there was no death, no loss, only eternal peace. So she placed the relic into the hollow at the door's centre, and the gate opened. But what came through was not what they expected. The first thing was the light. It was beautiful, too beautiful to bear, a blinding radiance that poured into the chamber like liquid gold. But the longer they looked, the more the light changed. It flickered, twisted, bent into shapes that were wrong, shapes the human mind was never meant to see. Then came the sound. Not a scream, not a roar, a whisper, so soft it barely existed, yet it filled every corner of their minds, every hidden fear and fragile hope. It was not a single voice, but thousands, layered over one another, speaking in perfect harmony, and yet each word carried a weight of dread. And Phi, Nali, the darkness. It spilled out from the light like ink bleeding through paper. It was not empty, it moved, alive and endless, swirling with shapes that had no name. The people froze. Some fell to their knees, weeping in awe. Others tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The darkness touched them, and in an instant they were gone. Not dead, not destroyed, simply erased. The woman watched it all. She saw the truth of the voice. It was not offering them a gift. It was feeding. It was never about ascending. It was about opening a way. And she realized too late that she had been the key. So she did the only thing she could. She turned the relic against the gate. The chamber shook. The light cracked like glass. The voice screamed, not with pain, but with fury, and in one final surge she severed the gate, cutting the city away from the rest of the world. But the cost was everything. The city was no longer part of this earth. It slipped between worlds, neither alive nor dead, trapped in a dream that would never end. The people were gone, the streets were silent, and she remained. Not living, not gone. A memory bound to the fountain, waiting for the day the gate would open again. Now we know what stepped through the gate, a hunger beyond comprehension, and why the city was severed from the world. The hunger that remains. The hunger was never meant to have a form. It is not a creature, not a god, not even a shadow. It is something older than all of those. A silence that moves. A void that breathes. It does not think the way we do. It does not seek destruction for cruelty's sake. It simply is. And when it touches a world, it consumes not only what is seen, but what is remembered. The people of the city called it many names before the end. Some saw it as a devourer, a darkness from beyond the stars. Others saw it as a mirror, reflecting the hidden emptiness within themselves. But all agreed on one thing: once it notices you, there is no escape. When the gate opened, the hunger spilled through like water into dry soil. It moved silently, without shape, slipping through the streets, the halls, the very walls. It seeped into the hearts of the people, not with claws, not with violence, but with whispers. The whispers told them secrets. It spoke of their fears, their desires, the things they thought no one could know. It promised them everything they ever wanted, if they would just let go. Some embraced it willingly. They stepped into the darkness and were swallowed whole, their faces calm, even serene. Others fought, but the harder they fought, the faster it consumed them. And the strangest thing was this: when it took someone, it left no body, no trace, just a faint echo in the air, like a memory dissolving. That is why no bodies were found when the city was discovered. The hunger didn't kill, it erased. Even now, in the ruins, its presence lingers. Not fully awake, but not gone. Explorers who have spent too long in the city speak of strange sensations, moments when their thoughts don't feel like their own. They hear a soft hum, almost like breathing, coming from the stones themselves. They feel a pull, gentle but unyielding, drawing them deeper and deeper into the labyrinth of the Undercity. Some describe moments of pure dread for no reason at all, standing in broad daylight, surrounded by sunlight, and suddenly feeling like something vast and unseen is standing right behind them. Others describe temptation, a strange warmth, a feeling of being understood completely, a voice, soft and sweet, telling them they don't need to go back to the empty world they came from, that they could stay here, where nothing hurts, where nothing fades, where everything they've ever lost will be given back. And a few have accepted. Those are the ones who vanish. No screams, no signs of struggle, just gone. Some say the hunger is dreaming. It is waiting for the door to open again, waiting for someone curious enough, desperate enough, to finish what the people of the city began. Because the hunger is patient. It has no need to rush. It knows that one day the right hands will find the relic and the gate will open again. And this time there may be no one left to close it. The hunger is not just a memory, it is still there, waiting, whispering, lingering in the ruins. The living maze. Those who walk the ruins long enough begin to notice something unsettling. The city does not stay the same. Maps fail here, no matter how carefully you mark the paths, no matter how many landmarks you memorize, the streets change. A corridor that led to the plaza one day leads to a dead end the next. A staircase that descended into darkness suddenly climbs upward into blinding light. Some say it's the mind playing tricks, that the silence, the emptiness, and the weight of the city's history bends your sense of direction, but those who've spent weeks inside know better. The city is moving, not like a living creature with bones and flesh, but like something in a dream, fluid, shifting, impossible to pin down. The walls breathe, the floors hum faintly at night, and sometimes when you turn a corner, you see something that should not be there. A hall too perfect, too clean, too alive, like stepping briefly into the past. But the moment you blink, it's gone. It is as if the city is choosing what to show you, or hiding what it doesn't want you to see. Explorers who have returned tell strange stories of walking in circles for hours, only to find themselves back where they started. Others speak of endless staircases that lead down and down, with no bottom in sight. And a few have claimed to see their own footprints vanish behind them as they walk, as if the city itself is erasing their presence. But the most disturbing tales are of the whispers. Not the faint echoes of the wind, but whispers that sound close, too close. You hear them just over your shoulder, soft and calm, speaking words you can't quite understand. You turn around, and there's nothing. But when you turn back, the path has changed. There is one place in particular that explorers avoid. A narrow street lined with broken statues, their faces worn smooth by time. At the end of that street is an archway. Beyond it, they say, the city does not follow the rules of the world anymore. Time bends, space folds. People have stepped through and found themselves walking through streets that are whole and alive, filled with light and voices, only to blink and find it all crumbled again. One explorer described it like this: "It was like the city was dreaming of itself, and for a moment I was inside its dream." And there are those who believe that is exactly what is happening. The hunger is still here, coiled within the stones. It is not fully awake, but it stirs in its sleep, reshaping the city with its dreams. Sometimes those dreams are beautiful, streets alive with music, towers shining in the sun. Sometimes they are nightmares, corridors that stretch into endless darkness, shadows moving without form. Either way, the city reflects the hunger's will. It does not want to be mapped. It does not want to be understood. It wants you to lose yourself. Because once you are lost, once you cannot tell what is real and what is not, that is when the whispers get louder. The city is no longer just ruins. It's a shifting, dreaming maze that traps those who wander too far. The archway of echoes. There is an archway deep within the city that no one stumbles upon by accident. It is hidden at the end of a narrow street, flanked by headless statues whose forms are eroded beyond recognition. The air around it feels heavier, as if the very light bends toward it. The stones of the arch are darker than the rest of the ruins, almost black, with faint patterns that shimmer when you look too long, like ripples in water. Those who have stood before it describe an overwhelming sense of silence, not the silence of emptiness, but the kind that feels alive, listening. And beyond that archway, the city is different. The first thing you notice is the light. It's not the dim, filtered sunlight of the ruins, but a golden glow that falls gently over everything. The streets are no longer broken, the walls are smooth and gleaming, the plaza is alive again, filled with people. You can hear music, you can smell flowers, you can even feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. For a moment, it is perfect. The city stands whole, untouched by time. Children run laughing through the fountains. Traders call out from their stalls. The air is filled with life, with joy. It feels like stepping into another time, another world. And yet, something is wrong. If you look closely, the people don't blink. Their smiles are too still, their movements are too smooth, too graceful, like actors performing a scene they've repeated for centuries. And their eyes are empty. They move past you as if you're not even there, their faces calm, serene, but hollow. It's as if they're trapped in a memory that cannot end. Some explorers have followed these figures through the dream city, hoping to find answers, but the streets twist endlessly, leading to places that make no sense, hallways that fold back into themselves, stairs that rise into the sky but never reach an end. And the deep, you go, the more the dream begins to fray. The golden light dims, the music slows, the smiles fade into blank expressions, the voices drop into whispers, low and echoing, and then you see shadows at the edge of your vision, moving in ways that are not human. If you stay too long, you begin to forget. You forget the ruins. You forget the world beyond the archway. You forget who you are, and when you try to leave, you realize you can't find the archway again. The streets shift, the sky darkens, and the figures who ignored you before begin to turn their heads. Slowly, one by one, and all of them are looking straight at you. Those who return from the archway never speak of what they saw in that moment. They come back pale, trembling, and silent. Some never speak again. A few, before losing themselves completely, say only one thing: It's not a dream, it's a mouth. No one knows what that means, but those words alone are enough to keep most away from the archway. Because if the city is dreaming, perhaps it is not dreaming of the past, perhaps it is dreaming of you. The archway reveals a living memory, but it is also a trap, something deeper and darker than it appears. The relic in the fountain. At the centre of the plaza stands the fountain. Even in ruin, it draws the eye. The basin is dry now, cracked and filled with fallen leaves, but the carvings remain. Strange patterns spiral along its surface, shapes that don't belong to any known language, yet feel like they're trying to speak. The statues that once crowned it are shattered, their faces lost. But the locals say there is something still hidden within it. They call it the heart of the city. Long ago, when the fountain still flowed, its waters shimmered with a soft glow at night. Travellers claimed the water healed wounds, soothed pain, even gave fleeting glimpses of the future. But the true source of that power was not the water itself. It was the relic buried beneath the fountain's base. No one knows exactly what the relic is. Some say it is a fragment of a fallen star, smooth and black as glass, humming with a quiet pulse. Others believe it's a crystal, unlike any found on Earth, filled with light that never fades. A few insist it's something far stranger, not a stone or a crystal, but a living thing that cannot die. What is certain is this: the relic was the key that connected the city to the voice beyond the stars. It was not crafted, it was found. Unearthed in the deepest tunnels below the city, long before the people knew what it truly was. At first, it seemed harmless, even miraculous. It gave them knowledge, visions of things they could never have discovered alone. It made their city powerful, prosperous, a beacon of wonder in the ancient world. But it also whispered, not loudly, not even often, just enough to plant seeds of curiosity, dig deeper, listen longer, open the way, and they obeyed. When the final night came, it was the woman who held the relic. She was the only one who could touch it without being consumed. She carried it to the black stone door in the Undercity A, and placed it there, unlocking the gate. Afterward, when she realized what she had done, she tried to undo it. She tore the relic away from the door and brought it back to the fountain. There, she sealed it beneath the stone, binding it with a final act of power. But it was too late. The city was already lost. The relic remained behind, humming softly in its prison beneath the fountain, waiting, and it still waits. Explorers who have touched the fountain say they felt a vibration, faint but constant, running through the stone. Some have heard a soft ringing in their ears when they stood too close, like a bell echoing underwater. A few claim they even saw it. Late at night, when the moonlight strikes the fountain just right, the stone becomes translucent for an instant. Beneath it, something glows faintly, a light that flickers as if it has its own heartbeat. And if you stare too long, you'll swear you see something else, a shadow moving inside the light, as if whatever is trapped there is not entirely asleep. There are those who believe the relic is the only thing keeping the hunger from waking completely. But there are also those who believe the relic is not a seal at all. It is a lure, a call waiting for someone to answer. The relic is the core of the city's curse, part key, part prison, part living memory. The hands that tried to take it. Not everyone who found the city was content to leave the relic buried beneath the fountain. Over the centuries, treasure hunters, scholars, and desperate kings all heard whispers of its power. A stone that could heal, a fragment of the stars that could grant visions, immortality, even godhood. They came from distant lands, braving the shifting maze of ruins, each believing they would succeed where others had failed. None returned the same. The first known attempt came from a warlord who brought 50 men. They camped by the plaza, confident and armed, their voices echoing in the empty streets. They dug beneath the fountain for 3 days and nights, carving through the stone, following the faint hum that grew louder the deeper they went. On the 4th night, something happened. The survivors who stumbled back into the desert claimed the air grew heavy, like breathing through water. The light dimmed, even though the moon was full, and then, from the hole they had dug, came a soft glow. At first it was beautiful, warm, inviting. Then it began to move. It spilled over the edges of the fountain like liquid gold, but within it were shapes, shadows, writhing, stretching. They said the shadows were reaching upward, pulling the men into the light one by one. There were no screams, only silence, as their bodies dissolved like sand in a tide. The warlord himself was the last. He tried to flee, but something caught him, not physically, but in his mind. He froze mid-step, staring blankly, and then he simply faded. When the survivors dared return at sunrise, the hole was sealed again, smooth, as if it had never been touched. The second attempt was quieter. A lone scholar came, armed not with weapons but with ancient texts. He believed he understood the language carved into the fountain. He thought he could awaken the relic safely, draw its knowledge without opening the gate. No one saw what he did, but days later he was found wandering the outskirts of the ruins. He was still alive, but his eyes were black. Completely, endlessly black. He spoke in a voice that was not his own, a soft, echoing tone that made the listener's skin crawl. He said only one sentence before collapsing into dust. "It remembers you." The third attempt was the most infamous. A secret order of priests from a distant kingdom came to the ruins, convinced the relic was divine. They performed rituals around the fountain for weeks. They chanted, burned incense, offered sacrifices, all in the hope of pleasing what lay beneath. On the final night of their ceremony, the sky above the city split with light. Witnesses miles away saw the ruins glow brighter than the stars. And then, silence. When travellers entered the city days later, the priests were gone. Their camp was intact, their belongings untouched. But in the centre of the plaza, etched freshly into the fountain's stone, were new symbols. No one has ever translated them. Some say they are a warning. Others say they are an invitation. Since then, most have left the relic alone. But even now, there are whispers of new seekers, those who believe the relic holds answers the world desperately needs, those who are willing to risk everything to touch it. Because some say it doesn't just hold the memory of the city, it holds a piece of what waits beyond the stars, and that piece is still alive. The relic rejects all who try to claim it, leaving only silence and mystery behind. The language of stone. The ruins are covered in markings, not random scratches from time and weather, but deliberate, careful carvings etched deep into the stone. They spiral across walls, snake along the floors, and cluster around doorways like silent sentinels. At first glance, they seem like writing, lines and curves repeating in intricate patterns. But the longer you look, the more they shift. One moment, they resemble constellations. The next, they look like spirals within spirals, endlessly folding into themselves. Scholars who have studied these symbols say they are not a language in the way we know it. They are something else, a pattern meant to be felt, not read. When you stand before them too long, you begin to sense a rhythm, like a distant pulse. Some describe it as a song you can't hear but can almost remember. Others say it feels like being watched, not with eyes, but with thoughts. The most concentrated inscriptions are found near the plaza and the undercity gates. They twist around the fountain like vines, climbing toward the basin's edge. Those who've traced their fingers along these carvings have reported strange sensations, heat radiating from cold stone, whispers in the back of their minds, flashes of images they don't understand. What are they saying? There are theories. The first is that they are a warning, a desperate plea from the last days of the city, carved by those who realized too late what they had awakened. Some believe the spirals represent the endless hunger, the void pulling everything inward. The constellations, they say, map the path of the voice beyond the stars, a guide to where it came from, or where it will go next. The second theory is darker. It claims the symbols are not warnings at all, but keys, each one a fragment of a greater pattern. When combined, they form a kind of map, not of places, but of ideas, a blueprint for opening the E-gate again, a guide for reaching beyond the veil and calling back the voice. And the third theory is the most unsettling. It suggests the symbols are alive, not just writing, but an extension of the hunger itself. They don't simply tell a story, they are the story. A living memory carved into the stones, reaching into the minds of anyone who dares to look too long. Some who have studied the carvings have lost themselves entirely. They begin to dream of the city as it was, whole, shining, alive. They start to hear the music, smell the air, feel the warmth of the golden light, and eventually they can't tell which world is real. There is a legend of one scribe who spent months copying the symbols into books. When he finished, he was found sitting in silence, staring at the pages. He whispered only one thing before vanishing without a sound. It's not writing, it's a door. The carvings around the fountain are the most dangerous of all. If you follow them with your eyes in the right sequence, they form a shape unlike anything human, a shape that doesn't belong to this world, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. It follows you in your dreams, it waits for you in the corner of your mind. Some say that shape is the true face of the hunger. Others say it's an invitation. Either way, the symbols remain, silently waiting for someone who can finally read them, or someone who will be consumed trying. The city's symbols are more than language. They are memory, warning, and perhaps even a living part of the hunger itself. The Undercity and the Black Gate. Beneath the ruins lies a world far older and stranger than the streets above. The Undercity is a vast network of tunnels and chambers carved deep into the earth, stretching farther than anyone has ever mapped. The air there is heavy, thick with the scent of stone and something faintly metallic. It is darker than any natural darkness, a darkness that feels almost alive. The entrances are hidden, narrow cracks in the walls of ruined halls, stairways that spiral downward and never seem to end. Those who dare to descend speak of an overwhelming silence, broken only by the faint echo of their own footsteps, and sometimes by something else. Soft sounds, like breathing, like distant whispers. The deeper you go, the stranger it becomes. The tunnels twist in impossible ways, looping back on themselves, branching into rooms that make no sense. Some chambers are filled with pillars carved with the same spiraling symbols found above, glowing faintly in the dark. Others are empty, save for shadows that seem to move when you're not looking. And then there is the heartbeat. It starts faint, barely noticeable, but the closer you get to the centre, the stronger it becomes, a deep, rhythmic thrum pulsing through the stone itself, matching no natural rhythm of the earth. Explorers say they can feel it in their bones, in their teeth, even in their thoughts. At the very heart of the Undercity lies the Black Gate. It is unlike any other structure, a massive slab of smooth, seamless stone, darker than midnight, standing alone in a cavern lit by no source. The surface reflects no light, yet it seems to drink it in, swallowing even the faintest glimmer. And it hums, a low, steady tone that vibrates in the chest. The gate has no hinges, no seams, no handle. It looks solid, immovable. Yet if you stand before it long enough, it begins to change. Patterns ripple out, across its surface, faint and fleeting, like reflections in water. Some say they see faces in those patterns. Others see entire cities, entire worlds flickering for an instant, and if you place your hand upon it, it is warm, too warm, almost like skin. The bravest explorers, or the most foolish, have pressed their palms against the black gate. They say it feels alive, that something on the other side presses back. Those who have touched it never return the same. Some lose their memories, forgetting who they are, where they came from. Others become quiet, withdrawn, haunted by dreams of golden light and endless darkness. And a few simply vanish, gone without a trace, leaving only their footprints in the dust. The woman who opened the gate stood here once. It was here that she placed the relic, unlocking the passage for the voice beyond the stars. It was here that the hunger slipped through, and it was here, too late, that she tried to sever the connection, trapping the city between worlds. Now the gate remains, silent, sleeping, but not dead. There are rumours that if you listen closely, you can still hear it, not the hum, not the heartbeat, but a whisper, calling you by name. The Undercity holds the Black Gate, a living threshold between this world and what lies beyond. The last guardians. Not everyone fled when the city began to fall. When the hunger spilled through the gate, when the golden streets began to crumble, when the whispers grew too loud to bear, a handful of people chose to stay. They were not warriors, nor priests, nor rulers. They were keepers, those who had always tended the relic, the fountain, and the door beneath the earth. They called themselves the Watchers. Their task was simple, yet impossible, to make sure the gate never opened again. It is said they bound themselves with an oath older than the city itself, an oath that would not let them leave, even when the world outside called to them, and when the city was severed from time and space, they were severed too. The Watchers became something less than human, yet more than memory. They linger in the Undercity still. Some describe them as shadows in the shape of people, tall and silent, their faces hidden beneath hoods that never move. Others say they are pale figures, their skin almost translucent, their eyes glowing faintly with the light of the relic. They do not speak, they do not breathe, they simply wait. But if you get too close to the Black Gate, you might see them. They appear at the edge of your vision, watching without moving. They do not stop you, they do not attack. They only stand there, as if warning you silently, begging you to turn back before it's too late. There are old stories from those few who survived the deepest parts of the Undercity. One explorer claimed he saw a Watcher step from the shadows and place its hand gently on the Black Gate. In that moment the hum grew louder, the heartbeat stronger, and the symbols on the walls began to glow. Then the figure turned its head toward him, and the explorer ran without looking back. Another spoke of a woman cloaked in silver standing by the sealed fountain. She did not speak, but when he approached, she raised her hand and pointed toward the desert beyond the ruins, as if telling him to leave. When he blinked, she was gone. The most haunting tale is of the lone guardian who still whispers. They say that deep in the Undercity there is one Watcher who is not silent. It sits by the gate, rocking slowly, whispering to itself in a language no one understands. If you get close enough, the whispers change. They begin to sound like your own thoughts, and if you listen too long, you forget why you came. Some believe the Watchers are no longer truly alive, that they are echoes, remnants of the last souls bound to the gate. Others believe they have become part of the hunger itself, not servants, but something worse, flesh and thought, twisted into guardians, forever caught between resisting the voice and becoming it. Either way, they remain, watching, waiting, keeping the Black Gate closed, or perhaps simply waiting for the right one to open it again. The Watchers are the last lingering fragments of the city's will, silent guardians trapped in an endless vigil. When the Watchers walk the world, For centuries, the city was forgotten by most of the world. But in the villages far beyond the desert, there are old stories. Stories of strangers who appear without warning, wearing cloaks of silver or black, their faces hidden, their voices soft and hollow. They are always described the same way, tall, silent, and watching. The people call them the Pale Ones. They come only at night, slipping through streets like shadows. Doors creak open, though no one has touched them. Dogs refuse to bark, candles flicker out, and for a brief moment the air feels heavy, as if time itself is holding its breath. Then they are gone. Sometimes they leave nothing behind but the faint scent of cold stone. Sometimes they leave more. In one mountain village, long after the city's fall, a hooded figure was seen standing at the edge of the forest. It did not move, did not speak, only stared at the village from afar. The next morning, strange symbols were found carved into every doorway. No one knew what they meant, but the villagers stayed awake all night in fear. By dawn, every single person who had touched the carvings was gone. In a coastal town, an old fisherman spoke of a pale woman who appeared at the docks on a moonless night. She looked lost, fragile, almost human. When he asked her where she came from, she only whispered, "I'm looking for home." Then she stepped into the water and vanished beneath the waves without a sound. Travellers have also spoken of wandering cloaked figures on desolate roads. When approached, the figures turn slowly, revealing eyes that glow faintly in the darkness. And then the traveller wakes hours later, lying on the road with no memory of what happened. What are these watchers doing outside the ruins? Some believe they are searching. For what? No one agrees. Perhaps for the relic, if it were ever moved. Perhaps for the woman who sealed the gate. Or perhaps for those whose minds are weak enough, willing enough, to hear the whispers and follow them back. There is a deeper, more chilling tale. It says the watchers leave the ruins, not to seek, but to warn, to appear before those who, knowingly or unknowingly, are close to repeating the same mistake the city made, to stand in silence, hoping someone will understand before it's too late. But there is also a final, quiet theory. The watchers are no longer bound only to the city. They are fragments of the hunger now, spreading outward, testing the edges of the world beyond. Each time they step into the lands outside, the line between the ruins and the living world blurs a little more. And one day, if the whispers are right, that line will vanish entirely, because the city is not content to remain lost. It remembers. And through the watchers, it waits for the moment it can return. The watchers do not always stay within the ruins. They slip into the world beyond, leaving behind fear, warnings, or something far worse. The ones who followed, there are always a few who can't look away. When the watchers appear in the living world, some feel only fear, but others feel something different, a strange pull, like a forgotten memory just out of reach, a quiet voice whispering, "Come with me." These are the ones who follow. They don't even realize they're doing it at first. They see a cloaked figure at the edge of the forest, the end of a street, the mouth of a cave. They think it's just a passerby, but something in their mind urges them to take a step closer, and another, and another. They walk for hours, sometimes days, never questioning why they aren't tired, why they can't turn back. The world around them grows quiet, empty. Birds stop singing, the wind dies, and before they realize it, the figure has led them into the desert. No one has ever seen someone return from that journey the same. The few who do come back are changed. Their eyes look distant, unfocused, like they're seeing something beyond the world in front of them. They speak slowly, as if words no longer fit their thoughts. And sometimes, in the middle of a sentence, they stop and stare into nothing for long, silent minutes. Some have been found wandering the outskirts of the ruins, barefoot and lost, their clothes torn. They don't remember leaving home. They don't remember how they got there, but they all say the same thing. It was so beautiful. When asked what they saw, they describe a city of golden light, streets alive with music, towers that touch the sky, fountains overflowing with shimmering water. They say it felt like home, even if they'd never been there before. But when pressed further, their smiles fade, their voices lower, and they say one last thing before they fall silent forever. It wasn't meant for us. There are darker tales. Some who followed never returned at all. Villages have lost entire families over night, all found standing at their doorsteps with blank faces before vanishing into the darkness. Travellers have been seen leaving their camps, walking calmly into the desert without supplies, without hesitation, as if sleepwalking. It is said that those who never return are taken into the city's dream. They become part of it. The silent figures who wander the golden streets beyond the archway, smiling, moving in perfect, hollow grace. They are not alive, not gone, but trapped in the memory of a world that no longer exists, and the watchers keep bringing more. Because the hunger is patient. It doesn't always need to come to you. Sometimes it simply waits for you to step willingly into its waiting arms. Those who follow the watchers are lost to the city, either as hollow echoes wandering its dream or as silent figures who never return at all. The prophecy of return. Far from the ruins, in the endless stretches of desert, there are nomadic tribes who have never forgotten the city. They speak of it in hushed tones around their fires at night, calling it by many names. The hollow crown, the sleeping mouth, the city that waits. To them, it is not just a place of the past, but a wound in the world that never healed. They say the city is not gone, it is only waiting. The elders tell of a time before time, when the sky was clearer and the stars burned brighter. They claim the city was never built by human hands alone. It was given, a gift from something beyond, a place meant to be both a home and a doorway. But when the people of the city opened that doorway, they let through more than they could control. And so the desert tribes carry a prophecy, a quiet warning passed down through endless generations. When the black gate hums louder than the earth, when the shadows walk where no sun shines, when the lost speak with the voices of the dead, then the city will wake, and the hunger will remember its name. What does it mean? Some say it speaks of the relic, that one day it will call out louder than ever before, drawing not just wanderers and watchers, but entire nations to the ruins. Others believe it refers to the watchers themselves, that they will no longer stay at the edges of the world, but walk openly among the living, bringing the city's dream with them like a spreading sickness. And there is a darker interpretation, one the elders rarely speak aloud. They believe the prophecy means the city itself will rise again, not as ruins, not as memory, but whole, alive, shimmering in golden light once more. It will reappear where the world least expects it, its gates wide open, its streets filled with hollow smiles. But it will not come back alone, it will bring the hunger with it, because the hunger never truly left. It sleeps beneath the stone, it sleeps in the relic, it even sleeps in the minds of those who have looked upon the city's symbols too long, and when the time comes, it will wake. There is one final part of the prophecy, rarely told except in whispers. One will come who carries the mark of the fountain, one who can touch the relic and not be consumed, and through them the city will either be freed or the world will be lost. The tribes do not know who this person is or when they will come, only that the ruins call to someone even now, someone who will decide whether the city story ends or begins again. The prophecy hints that the city will not remain silent forever. It will return, whether as salvation or as the hunger's final gift. The first awakening, it happened quietly. There was no grand announcement, no public revelation, only a small group of the circle's most devoted members travelling into the desert under the cover of darkness. They brought with them relic fragments, ancient inscriptions etched on parchment, and a handful of the chosen, who had been trained to hear the whispers clearly. Their destination was the fountain. They believed the fountain was the key, the final seal holding the relic in place, the last tether keeping the black gate silent. For days they prepared the site. They traced the symbols in chalk around the plaza, replicating the exact patterns carved into the undercity walls. They placed the relic fragments carefully in each corner, their faint hum growing stronger as they drew closer together. The chosen sat in a circle around the fountain, their eyes closed, their voices soft as they chanted the words of the old language. The air grew heavy. The desert wind stilled. And then the hum began. At first, it was faint, like the vibration of a distant engine, but soon it deepened, resonating through the stone, through the sand, through the bones of everyone present. The sound was not just heard, it was felt, vibrating through their thoughts, shaking something deep within their minds. The fountain cracked. From the fissures came a faint golden glow, soft and warm like candlelight. The chosen began to smile, their voices rising in unison. The circle's leaders stepped closer, their hands trembling with anticipation. For a moment, it worked. The glow grew brighter, the hum grew louder, and in the middle of the fountain, the stone turned translucent, revealing the relic beneath, shimmering faintly like a heartbeat, alive, awake. But then, the light changed. It deepened, shifting from gold to something darker, something the eyes could not fully comprehend. The hum became a low endless roar that pressed into the skull, making it hard to think, hard to be. And then the shadows came. They spilled from the cracks in the fountain like liquid night, crawling across the plaza, reaching for the feet of the chosen. One by one, the chosen froze mid-chant, their eyes wide, their mouths opened, but no sound came out, only a soft, breathless exhale as the shadows pulled them under. The leaders tried to stop it, but their voices were lost in the roar. Something moved at the edge of the plaza. Figures, tall, hooded, silent, watchers. They stepped forward slowly, deliberately, surrounding the fountain. Their faces were hidden, but their presence was suffocating. One of them raised a pale hand and placed it on the stone. The glow of the relic pulsed once, sharp, blinding, and then everything went dark. When the survivors woke, they were lying outside the ruins under the cold light of dawn. The fountain was sealed again, smooth as if untouched. The symbols they had drawn in chalk were gone, erased clean. Half their number was missing, and those who returned were not the same. Their eyes were hollow, their voices echoed faintly when they spoke, as if layered with something else. Some refused to speak at all, staring into the distance with faint smiles, whispering words no one understood. The relic fragments they had brought with them were now cracked, their hum silenced. But the leaders who survived claimed the attempt was not a failure. It was an answer. They believed the city heard them. The relic responded. The watchers came because they noticed. And if they try again, if they do it properly, the gate will fully awaken. But those who were there that night, those who truly felt the shadows move, are haunted by a single thought. It wasn't the city that answered, it was what waits beyond it. The circle's first awakening brought more questions than answers, and cost more, lives, than they expected, but it proved the hunger is still listening, the spreading echo. After the circle's failed awakening, the world did not return to silence. Instead, something changed. At first it was barely noticeable, small disturbances in places far from the desert, electronic devices malfunctioning in strange ways, compasses spinning briefly, animals behaving as if sensing something unseen. Then came the dreams. Not just among the chosen anymore, but ordinary people with no connection to the ruins. Across cities and villages, scattered souls began waking in the middle of the night, with the same images burned into their minds. A golden street lined with faceless figures, a fountain glowing faintly in darkness, a black gate humming in the distance. Some dreamers described hearing soft music, others a voice calling their name. A few woke with sand on their hands, even if they lived far from any desert. Doctors called it mass hysteria, but the dreams kept spreading. Soon, patterns began appearing in unexpected places, spirals drawn by children without realizing why, symbols scratched into walls by those who swore they didn't remember doing it. In one city, entire flocks of birds gathered on rooftops, forming shapes that matched the carvings of the Undercity before scattering into the night. And then there were the disappearances. Not many at first. A man walking home from work vanishes between two streets. A woman leaves her apartment and is never seen again. Security cameras show them turning a corner and then simply not existing on the other side. When their homes were searched, faint traces of sand were found. Meanwhile, those who had survived the circle's awakening began to change even more. Their voices grew softer, slower. Their eyes seemed to flicker with faint reflections of something distant. Some stopped speaking entirely, spending hours staring into mirrors or at the sky. A few began drawing the city over and over, unable to stop. One survivor stood in front of a crowd and calmly said, "It's almost here." Then she smiled and walked into the sea, never resurfacing. Even nature began to show signs. In the desert surrounding the ruins, strange lights could be seen dancing along the horizon. Animals avoided the area entirely. The air above the ruins shimmered faintly, like heat haze even in the cold of night. Satellite images, taken by governments monitoring the site, revealed something no one could explain. Shadows moving in the city where no living thing should have been. And always, beneath it all, was the hum. Subtle at first, like a vibration in the edge of hearing. But in recent weeks it has been growing louder. Some claim they can hear it even miles from the ruins. Others say it doesn't just come from the city anymore, it's in the earth itself. It feels as if the world is slowly bending towards something, as if the line between the city and the living world is weakening. And those who have studied the prophecies know what comes next. The hunger doesn't just wait behind the gate forever, it spreads. Quietly at first, through dreams, through whispers, through thoughts, then it grows louder, until the city is no longer a place hidden in the desert, but a shadow stretching across the whole world. And when it finally arrives, there will be no place left untouched. The failed awakening did not end the danger. It began a slow unraveling. The city's echo is spreading, reaching into dreams, into minds, into reality itself. The last defiance. Not everyone in the circle believes the awakening is salvation. After the failed attempt at the fountain, a small faction quietly broke away. They had seen too much, the shadows swallowing the chosen, the watchers stepping silently into the plaza, the way their friends returned hollow-eyed and whispering in strange voices. These defectors call themselves the Veil Breakers. They believe the circle's leaders have been deceived by the hunger, manipulated into thinking it can be controlled. The Veil Breakers know the truth. Once the Black Gate fully awakens, there will be no returning from what waits beyond it. So they decided to act. In secret, they began stealing relic fragments from the circle's hidden vaults. They gathered ancient texts and tried to decipher the oldest carvings, not the ones that summon the city, but the ones that speak of how it was sealed. And they discovered something, a forgotten ritual, not to awaken the gate, but to bury it. The writings were cryptic, fragments of the language of the lost city, combined with warnings scrawled in the margins by trembling hands. But the message was clear enough. The relic can be silenced, The gate sealed deeper than before, but only by returning it to its original resting place beneath the fountain, and only by offering a life willingly. The veil-breakers chose one among them. A woman named Lyra, who had been one of the first to dream of the golden streets, but who still held on to herself. She volunteered, knowing she might never return. They planned their mission carefully. At night, when the desert was silent, they would sneak into the ruins. They would carry the relic fragments, piece them together, and lower them into the sealed fountain. Lyra would speak the words of the old language, binding the relic to silence once more. But the ruins were not empty. As they crossed the plaza, the shadows moved. Watchers appeared at the edges of the square, silent and still, but their presence made the air thick and heavy. The veil-breakers pressed on, forcing themselves not to look into the hooded faces that seemed to turn toward them. At the fountain, they worked quickly. The relic fragments were fitted together, glowing faintly with a pulse like a heartbeat. Lyra stepped forward, hands trembling, and began to speak the sealing words. At first, it worked. The hum grew weaker, the golden glow dimmed. For the first time in centuries, the relic seemed to quiet. But then the watchers moved. They stepped closer, their hoods lifting just enough to reveal nothing. Not faces, not eyes, only darkness. Their pale hands stretched outward, and the air vibrated with a low, endless note. The other veil-breakers tried to protect Lyra, but the watchers didn't attack. They simply looked, and one by one the rebels froze, their bodies locked in place, their minds pulled into the dream. Only Lyra kept speaking. She finished the final word of the ritual. For a moment there was silence. Then the fountain cracked again, a deep rumble echoing beneath the earth. The glow of the relic flared blindingly bright, and then vanished entirely. The hum stopped. The plaza went still. When the remaining veil-breakers woke hours later, they were lying in the sand outside the ruins. The relic fragments were gone, the fountain was sealed tighter than before, and Lyra was nowhere to be found. Some say she succeeded, that she gave her life to silence the relic for now, buying the world more time. Others say the watchers took her beyond the gate, making her part of the city's endless dream. But one thing is certain, even in its silence, the city remembers, and the hunger never truly sleeps. The veil-breakers tried to seal the relic again, sacrificing one of their own, but the question remains, did they truly stop the city, or merely delay the inevitable? The return of Lyra. For a time after the veil-breakers' desperate act, there was quiet. The hum that had been growing louder across the desert fell silent. The dreams that had spread like a sickness began to fade. Even the watchers seemed to withdraw, vanishing from the outskirts of villages and roads. It felt like a reprieve, but reprieves never last. Weeks after the ritual, whispers began again. Not from the relic this time, but from people who claimed they had seen a lone figure wandering the desert. A woman. She was barefoot, her clothes torn, her face pale beneath the moonlight. She walked slowly, as if lost, her head tilted slightly as though listening to something no one else could hear. Those who saw her said she spoke only one sentence, "It's not done," and then she disappeared into the dunes. At first the circle thought it was a ghost story, a myth born from fear, but then one of their own agents returned from the ruins carrying a piece of cloth, faded, torn, but unmistakably Lyra's. More sightings followed. She was seen in distant towns, standing silently outside windows at night, her eyes glowing faintly with a golden light. Children claimed she visited them in their dreams, showing them streets of shimmering stone and fountains filled with black water. One man swore he spoke to her. He said her voice was calm, but layered with something else, another tone beneath it, deeper, inhuman. She told him, "I saw the other side." When he asked what it was like, she smiled sadly and said, "You will know soon." Then she walked into the shadows and vanished. The veil breakers who survived the ritual believe Lyra didn't die when she spoke the sealing words. They think she was taken, drawn through the gate, into the place the city touches beyond the veil, and whatever she saw there changed her. She is no longer entirely herself. Some believe she has become a messenger for two. He hunger, sent back into the world to prepare it for what's coming. Others cling to hope, thinking she still fights it from within, warning people in the only way she can. But everyone agrees on one thing. Wherever Lyra walks, strange things follow. Lights flicker, shadows stretch unnaturally long. People nearby begin to hear faint music that fades the moment they notice it. And sometimes, after she appears, someone in the town vanishes, leaving only footprints in the dust. And then there is the worst rumour, that Lyra has been seen standing at the fountain in the ruins again, not chanting, not sealing, but waiting. Waiting for the circle to come back, waiting for the next awakening, because the gate may have been quieted, but it was never truly closed. Lyra returned, but no longer entirely human. Now a wandering echo of the gate itself, a living warning, or perhaps a herald of what's to come. When the city bleeds through, after Lyra's return, the world began to change in ways no one could deny. It started as fleeting glimpses. A traveller walking through an empty alley at night would suddenly see the walls shift, the bricks turning black and smooth, the street stretching longer than it should. For just a heartbeat, they would feel the warm glow of golden light, hear faint music echoing from nowhere, and then, as quickly as it came, it would vanish. Others began to experience time slipping strangely. A man in a crowded marketplace reached for a piece of fruit, and for a single moment, everyone around him was gone. He stood in the same place, but the sky above was an endless twilight, and the ground beneath him was paved with dark, glistening stone. When he blinked, the world snapped back to normal, but the fruit in his hand was cold, as if it had been sitting in shadow. Then came the reflections. People looking into mirrors, puddles, even the screens of their phones started seeing something behind them. At first it was subtle, a faint archway, a flicker of tall, hooded figures. But over time, the visions grew clearer. Some saw themselves walking along streets they didn't recognize, with faceless companions moving silently beside them. Worse still, the city began to appear in places it shouldn't. In one small town, a building that had been abandoned for years suddenly had a doorway no one remembered. When someone opened it, they claimed it didn't lead to a room, but to a long, narrow corridor lit by a soft, golden glow. The doorway was bricked up by morning. In another city, an entire block of street lamps began flickering in unison, and when they went out, witnesses swore they saw the silhouette of towering spires shimmering above the skyline, just for a breath, just long enough to realize they were wrong about the shape of their own city. Even nature betrayed the shift. Animals avoided certain areas without reason. Birds flew in perfect spirals above empty fields. In the desert, strange plants began sprouting around the ruins, black vines with faintly glowing veins that pulsed softly like breathing, and everywhere the dreams returned. Not just to the chosen or those who had seen Lyra, but to countless ordinary people. Dreams of endless corridors, fountains filled with shifting light, and the sound of footsteps just behind them. Some woke with sand in their beds, others didn't wake at all. The Circle of the Veil saw these events not as warnings, but as signs of progress. To them, the city was no longer waiting, it was reaching out. They claimed this was proof the next awakening would succeed, that the gate was already opening on its own. But the veil breakers knew better. They saw what the blurring of worlds really meant. The hunger was no longer contained. It was bleeding through the cracks, seeping into reality piece by piece, fragment by fragment. Every glimpse, every dream, every disappearance was the city stretching its fingers farther into the living world. and once enough of it bled through, the rest would follow, because the city doesn't just want to return, it wants to replace. The veil between worlds is tearing, the city leaking into reality in fragments, reflections, dreams, impossible doorways. The full return is no longer a question of if, but when. The gate stirs. It began with a sound, not loud, not sharp, just a low, resonant note that seemed to come from the earth itself. It was felt more than heard, vibrating faintly in the bones, humming beneath the edge of thought. People everywhere reported it at the same time. Farmers in distant fields, office workers in towering cities, children playing in quiet streets, all stopped suddenly, staring into the distance, unsure why their hearts were beating faster. It lasted only a few moments, but after it faded, nothing felt the same. In the desert, the ruins trembled. Cracks formed along the plaza, radiating out from the fountain like veins of black glass. The air above the city shimmered with faint waves of light, bending the horizon into impossible shapes. And deep beneath the ruins, something shifted. Those who were near enough swore they felt the ground breathing. Far away, the dreams grew stronger. No longer fragments of corridors or glimpses of the fountain. Now the dreamers stood before the black gate itself. They described it as vast, endless, and alive, its surface swirling with shadows and faint whispers. The worst part, the gate was no longer closed. They saw it slightly ajar, golden light seeping from the cracks like molten sun. And beyond that light was not warmth but endless darkness, filled with shapes too large, too wrong to describe. And the dream spoke a single phrase, the same to everyone, no matter their language: it remembers. Then came the disappearances. Entire groups vanished in a single night, villages waking to find half their population gone without a trace. Those left behind found only long, spiraling footprints in the dust, as if they had walked willingly towards something calling them. Mirrors became unreliable. People stared into their reflections only to see themselves standing in a different place entirely, the golden streets of the lost Kiko. The black gate looming in the distance. Sometimes their reflections moved a moment too late, smiling faintly before catching up. The circle of the veil declared it the beginning of the second dawn. They gathered at the ruins once more, convinced that the gate was awakening to welcome them, but the veil breakers knew the truth. This was not an invitation, it was a pulling. The hunger was no longer waiting to be summoned, it was summoning. Reaching across the thinning veil, drawing the living world closer to itself, piece by piece. Even the sky began to change. Stars above the desert flickered and rearranged themselves into patterns matching the carvings in the Undercity. Strange auroras appeared in places where no auroras should exist, and for the first time in living memory, the moonlight over the ruins turned a faint, impossible gold, and beneath it all, louder now than ever before, was the hum. It resonated through stone, through sand, through every living thing. The same sound from the first awakening, but deeper, heavier, almost a heartbeat. The black gate was stirring, and once it fully opens, there will be no closing it. The black gate has begun to wake, pulling the world toward it. Dreams grow vivid, disappearances increase, and the hum becomes an undeniable heartbeat of something vast. When the gate opens, it happened without warning. There was no earthquake, no storm, no single moment of chaos, just a quiet stillness that swept across the world like a held breath. Then the hum stopped. For the first time in months, the deep vibration that had haunted the earth fell silent. But the silence was worse, because in that silence came the sound of footsteps. Not just in the desert, not just in the ruins, everywhere. People standing in their homes heard them in their hallways. Travellers on lonely roads heard them just behind their cars. In crowded cities, the footsteps echoed through streets, even when no one was walking. And then the shadows came. They stretched unnaturally long across the ground, bending around corners, climbing walls like liquid. At the edges of every reflection, windows, mirrors, water, figures appeared, tall, cloaked, faceless, the Watchers. This time, they didn't stay in the distance. They stepped forward, across the desert, across the villages, across the cities of the living world. One by one, the Watchers appeared in silence, their pale hands reaching, their dark hoods turning toward anyone who dared to look, and behind them came the light. It was golden at first, warm and soft, like the glow of a fading sunset, but as it spread, it grew sharper, blinding, swallowing the edges of reality itself. Buildings shimmered, streets stretched, walls turned to smooth black stone. The world began to change. People watched in horror as familiar places dissolved into the architecture of the lost city. Their homes warped into endless corridors. Their parks became plazas paved with glistening dark stone. Towers that didn't belong to their skyline rose in the distance, impossibly tall, vanishing into a sky that no longer felt like their own. The city was no longer in the desert. It was everywhere. The black gate stood open at the heart of it all. Massive, endless, its swirling surface alive with shifting shapes that could not be named. Through it came a soft, unending music, haunting and beautiful, like a memory of something that had never happened. And people began to walk toward it. Not in fear, not running, calmly, silently, like sleepwalkers, entire crowds moving as one, their faces blank but peaceful. They stepped through the archways, down the golden streets, toward the gate, vanishing into the endless glow beyond. The circle of the veil followed willingly, convinced they were entering a higher realm. The veil breakers tried to fight, tried to hold on, but even they felt the pull. The hunger wasn't just outside, it was inside their minds, in every thought, every breath, whispering that this was where they belonged. And among the crowds was Lyra. She stood before the gate, her eyes glowing faintly. For a brief moment she looked back, as if she remembered the world she came from. Then she smiled, softly, sadly, and stepped through. Beyond the gate was not light. It was something else. An endless expanse of shifting darkness and towering shapes. A place where time didn't move, where reality folded in on itself, where the city stretched forever in every direction. Those who stepped through didn't scream. They simply stopped being what they were. And as more entered, the gate widened. The last fragments of the living world dissolved. The hum returned, not as a sound, but as the rhythm of everything. A single heartbeat echoing through a city that now covered all that once was. And then there was nothing left but silence. Silence and the city, waiting, as it always had, as it always will. The black gate fully opened, and the lost city replaced the world, consuming it in silence and golden light. It did not destroy, it transformed. And beyond the gate lies only the endless hunger, patient and eternal.